The conference room fell silent as Mark Anderson gathered his belongings, hands trembling slightly as he placed his company badge on the polished table. 20 pairs of eyes watched him, some sympathetic, others coldly professional, as the HR director's words hung in the air, "Your position has been terminated, effective immediately." No one knew that in just 72 hours, this same room would host an emergency board meeting that would change everything, not just for Mark, but for the entire company. What happened in those 3 days would reveal a truth so powerful that it would make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty, sacrifice, and what truly matters in life. If you've ever felt undervalued or overlooked, this story might just restore your faith in humanity. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories that remind us of the extraordinary courage found in ordinary lives. Mark Anderson stepped out of Horizon Technologies' gleaming headquarters into the harsh December cold, the security guard's awkward "sorry, man" still ringing in his ears. 6 years of dedication ended with a cardboard box of desk plants and family photos. 6 years of arriving early and leaving late, of missed school plays and parent-teacher conferences, all sacrificed for a company that had just discarded him without hesitation. Budget cuts, they'd said. Nothing personal, they'd assured him. But it felt intensely personal as Mark sat in his 10-year-old Honda, staring at the dashboard where the check engine light had been blinking for weeks. A repair he couldn't afford before, and certainly couldn't afford now. His phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Patel, his neighbor who watched 8-year-old Emma after school. "Emma's asking when you'll be home. Everything okay?" Mark closed his eyes, fighting the burning sensation behind them. How was he going to tell his daughter? Emma, whose world had already been shattered 2 years ago when her mother walked out, leaving nothing but a note and divorce papers. Emma, who still sometimes woke up crying, afraid that her daddy would disappear too. "On my way," he typed back, forcing himself to start the car and pull away from the building that had been his second home. The apartment was warm and smelled of the curry Mrs. Patel had undoubtedly brought over. Emma sat at their small kitchen table, her math homework spread out before her, tongue poking out in concentration as she worked through a problem. "Daddy," she exclaimed, jumping up to hug him. Her dark curls bounced as she moved, so like her mother's that sometimes it made his heart ache. Mrs. Patel made chicken curry. "And guess what? I got an A on my science project." Mark hugged her tightly, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "That's amazing, sweetheart. I knew you would. Are you okay, Daddy?" Emma pulled back, her small face suddenly serious. "You're squeezing me really tight." Mark forced a smile. "Just happy to see you, that's all." Later, after Emma was tucked in bed with promises of weekend pancakes, Mark sat at the kitchen table with bills spread before him. The mortgage was already 2 weeks late. The electricity bill had a final notice stamp. And now, the health insurance that covered Emma's asthma medication would end at the month's close. He opened his laptop, updating his resume with shaking hands. The job market was tight, especially in tech since the latest economic downturn. He'd need to find something fast, but quality jobs in his field took months to secure. Mark rubbed his eyes, exhaustion settling deep in his bones. His phone pinged with an email notification. Probably another bill. But when he glanced down, the sender made his heart skip. Dr. Melissa Chen, Emma's oncologist. The email was brief but devastating. "Mr. Anderson, I'm concerned about Emma's latest blood work. We need to schedule another round of treatment immediately. Please call my office tomorrow." Mark stared at the screen, the words blurring as tears filled his eyes. This was his secret, the one he'd kept from everyone at work, even his closest colleagues. Emma had been diagnosed with leukemia 18 months ago. The initial treatment had seemed successful, but Dr. Chen had warned him that relapse was possible. He'd used all his sick days and vacation time during her first round of treatment, working remotely whenever possible, taking conference calls from hospital rooms while Emma slept. He'd never told anyone at Horizon why he occasionally needed to leave early or come in late. Pride, perhaps, or fear that they'd see him as a liability. Now that decision seemed foolish beyond measure. Without insurance, the treatments would be impossible to afford. Without a job, they might even lose their home. Mark put his head in his hands and, for the first time since his wife left, allowed himself to cry. Across town, in a penthouse apartment overlooking the city, Catherine Wells, CEO of Horizon Technologies, poured herself a glass of wine. At 42, she had built Horizon from a struggling startup to a tech industry leader. Tonight should have been a celebration. The board had approved her restructuring plan, which would streamline operations and boost the company's stock price. Yet something felt off. The HR director's report sat on her coffee table, listing the 30 employees who had been let go that day. Catherine hadn't been directly involved in selecting who would be cut, that had been left to department heads, but she had approved the final list. Her phone rang, displaying her sister's name. "Hey, Sarah," she answered, taking a sip of wine. "Just checking if we're still on for Mom's birthday dinner tomorrow," Sarah said. "Of course. I've already arranged for the cake." "Great. Oh, and I wanted to tell you, Jamie's oncologist says he's officially in remission. 5 years cancer-free." Catherine smiled, genuine warmth spreading through her. Her nephew's battle with leukemia had been long and terrifying. "That's wonderful news, Sarah. He's such a fighter." "He is. But we couldn't have done it without you, Kath. The way you arranged your schedule to help us, the medical connections you made, not everyone has a sister who would do that." After hanging up, Catherine found herself staring at the employee list again. Her conversation with Sarah had stirred something, a memory of a conversation overheard months ago in the break room. Someone talking about a coworker who seemed perpetually exhausted, who occasionally took mysterious afternoons off but always made up the work. On impulse, Catherine opened her laptop and pulled up the company's HR files. She began reading through the personnel files of those who had been terminated, looking for, she wasn't sure what. Mark Anderson's file was unremarkable at first glance. Software engineer, solid performance reviews, though his direct manager had noted increased absences in the past year. No explanations offered. No accommodations requested. Catherine frowned, scrolling further. Something caught her eye, a health insurance claim from 18 months ago. A significant one, from City Children's Hospital Oncology Department. Her breath caught. Oncology. Children's Hospital. She kept digging, finding more claims, medications she recognized from Jamie's treatment, procedures with familiar names. The pattern was unmistakable to someone who had lived through a child's cancer battle alongside her sister. Catherine sat back, stunned. Mark Anderson had a child with cancer. And they had just fired him, cutting off his health insurance. She grabbed her phone, dialing her HR director despite the late hour. "James? It's Catherine. I need everything you have on Mark Anderson. And I mean everything." The next morning, Mark sat in Dr. Chen's office, trying to focus as she explained Emma's situation. "The blood work shows early signs of relapse," she said gently. "If we start treatment now, her prognosis remains very good. But we need to move quickly, Mark." "I understand," he said, his voice hollow. "But there's a complication. I lost my job yesterday. My insurance will only last until the end of the month." Dr. Chen's expression softened with concern. "There are programs we can look into, payment plans." "I'll figure it out," Mark interrupted, unable to bear her pity. "Whatever it takes. When do we need to start?" "Ideally, next week. I've scheduled her for Monday." Mark nodded, mind racing through impossible calculations. He could sell his car, empty his meager 401k, maybe borrow from his parents though they were on fixed incomes themselves. As he left the hospital, his phone rang with an unknown number. "Mr. Anderson?" This is James Harrington, HR Director at Horizon Technologies. Mark's grip tightened on the phone. Had they forgotten something in their haste to push him out the door? Ms. Wells would like to meet with you this afternoon. Would 2 p.m. work? Confusion washed over him. The CEO wanted to meet with him? In 6 years, he'd only seen Catherine Wells from a distance at company events. May I ask what this is regarding? He managed. Ms. Wells prefers to discuss that in person. A car will pick you up at 1:30. The Horizon Technologies lobby felt different as a visitor. Mark clutched his visitor badge, acutely aware of his wrinkled shirt and the dark circles under his eyes. He hadn't slept more than an hour last night. James Harrington met him personally, his usual crisp demeanor replaced by something almost apologetic as he led Mark to the executive floor. Catherine Wells's office was exactly as Mark had imagined, spacious and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The CEO herself stood as he entered, extending her hand. Mr. Anderson. Thank you for coming on such short notice. She was taller in person than she appeared in company videos, her handshake firm but not aggressive. Something in her eyes, a warmth, perhaps, caught him off guard. Please, sit, she gestured to a chair across from her desk. Can I offer you coffee? Water? No, thank you, Mark said, perplexed by the courtesy. Yesterday he'd been disposable, today he was being offered refreshments by the CEO. Catherine sat, studying him for a moment before speaking. I'll be direct, Mr. Anderson. It has come to my attention that your termination was a mistake. Mark blinked. A mistake? Yes. And a significant one. She folded her hands on her desk. Mr. Anderson, why didn't you inform HR about your daughter's medical situation? The question hit like a physical blow. How did she know about Emma? Catherine seemed to read his shock. Insurance claims are confidential, but as CEO, I have access to aggregate health data. I noticed a pattern in your file that seemed familiar. Her expression softened. My nephew had leukemia. I recognized the treatment protocols. Mark swallowed hard. I didn't want special treatment. Or pity. Not even reasonable accommodations that you're legally entitled to. He looked down at his hands. I was afraid it would affect how people saw me professionally. That I'd be passed over for projects or advancement. Catherine nodded slowly. I understand that fear. But it led to a situation where your manager made decisions without crucial information. She leaned forward. Mr. Anderson, Mark, I'd like to offer you your position back. With additional flexibility for your daughter's treatments, and backdated so there's no gap in your insurance coverage. Mark stared at her, certain he'd misheard. You want me back? With a caveat, Catherine added. I'd like you to help us develop better support systems for employees facing family medical crises. Your experience could be invaluable in creating policies that ensure no one else feels they need to hide such circumstances. The relief was so overwhelming that for a moment, Mark couldn't speak. When he finally found his voice, it was rough with emotion. Why would you do this? Catherine's professional demeanor slipped, revealing something more personal. Because 6 years ago, I was where you are. My sister's son was diagnosed, and I was his primary support while my sister fell apart. I nearly lost my previous job trying to balance everything. If someone hadn't taken a chance on me then, Horizon might not exist today. She paused. Sometimes people need support, not severance. 3 months later, Mark stood nervously at the podium in Horizon's largest conference room. The company's quarterly all-hands meeting had an unusual agenda item, the launch of the Horizon Family Care Initiative. Many of you don't know this, Mark began, looking out at his colleagues, but last year, my daughter Emma was diagnosed with leukemia. A murmur ran through the crowd. In the front row, Catherine Wells nodded encouragingly. I kept it secret, worried about how it might affect my career. That decision nearly cost my daughter her health coverage when I was let go during restructuring. Mark glanced at Emma, sitting beside Catherine, her color much better after 2 months of treatment. She gave him a thumbs up. But something remarkable happened. Our CEO discovered my situation and not only reinstated me but asked me to help create a program to ensure no Horizon employee ever feels they need to hide a family health crisis again. He clicked to the next slide, displaying the initiative's details: flexible scheduling, remote work options, an emergency leave bank where employees could donate and use time off, and a supplemental insurance program for catastrophic illnesses. Today, I'm proud to announce that the board has unanimously approved the Horizon Family Care Initiative. Because at Horizon, we believe that taking care of our families is not a liability, it's our most important work. The applause was immediate and thunderous. As Mark stepped away from the podium, Catherine took his place. "I'd like to add something," she said once the room quieted. "When I founded this company, I had a vision of creating innovative technology. But Mark has reminded me of something more important, that companies are made of people, not products. And people have lives that matter beyond these walls." She turned to Mark. "Your courage in sharing your story has changed Horizon for the better. Thank you." Later, as Mark and Emma walked to his car, now repaired and running smoothly, Emma tugged his hand. "Daddy, are you famous now? Everyone was clapping for you." Mark laughed, lifting her onto his shoulders despite her protests that she was too big for such things. "Not famous, sweetheart. Just part of something important." "Ms. Catherine said you're a hero," Emma informed him seriously. Mark thought about Catherine's words after the meeting, when she'd confided that the initiative was being adopted by several other companies in their network. Sometimes, she'd said, the most revolutionary changes come not from technology, but from simple human compassion. "I'm not a hero," he told Emma now. "I'm just your dad." Emma leaned down to wrap her arms around his neck. "That's the same thing." As the sun set over the city, Catherine Wells stood at her office window, watching Mark and Emma in the parking lot below. The little girl's laughter floated up faintly as Mark spun her around before helping her into the car. Her phone buzzed with a text from her sister. "Board approved the Family Care Initiative? You're amazing, Kath." Catherine smiled, typing back, "I had help." Sometimes the best ideas come from unexpected places. She turned back to her desk, where a framed photo now stood beside her computer, her nephew Jamie at his cancer-free celebration, grinning with missing front teeth. Beside it was a new addition, a crayon drawing Emma had given her, showing stick figures labeled Daddy, Me, and Ms. Catherine the Boss Lady. In the corner of the drawing, Emma had written in careful letters, "Thank you for fixing Daddy's job. Now he doesn't cry at night anymore." Some victories couldn't be measured in stock prices or quarterly reports. Some were measured in the sound of a child's laughter and the knowledge that doing the right thing, even when it wasn't the easy thing, was what truly defined success. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Remember that behind every colleague, every employee, every person you meet, there may be battles being fought in silence. Sometimes the greatest act of leadership is simply seeing people for who they truly are, not just what they can produce. In a world that often values productivity over humanity, be the person who chooses compassion. Because you never know when that choice might save someone's world.